Hi, Dr. Don Shaver here. I'm a physical therapist and personal trainer at Iron City Physical Therapy in New York, and I created the Healthy Shoulder Program to help athletes just like you to maintain their shoulder health or to improve their shoulder health. Just a disclaimer, this is not meant for people with severe shoulder pain. Those people can, you go to your doctor, go see your physical therapist, get checked out in person. If you have minor aches or pains, all good, join on in. This program is intended for people that play sports, baseball, swimmers, everything up to like CrossFit. As a physical therapist, I've noticed a lot of common themes in the injuries that I'm seeing in the patients that I'm working with. A lot of imbalances in the muscles, a lot of changes in the range of motion. And so what I did is compile a comprehensive program that addresses those deficits and works well for the masses. So this is something that you can go through as a team. You can go through this individually. Really, this gives you a program that you can follow that's going to maintain your shoulder health so that in 10 years from now, you're still working out. The worst thing is when I see somebody and they tell me a story. 10 years ago, I used to bench press 300 pounds, or you talk to a baseball player and they used to be able to throw somebody out from center field all the way to home plate. And it's just a shame to see things like that, especially when now we have the research backing the exercises needed to prevent that. We can get you going with a program now that would supplement your normal gym routine and could get you to stay healthy in many cases, so that years down the road, hey, you're still that person working out and you're not out of the game because of your shoulder. So if that sounds like the kind of thing that you're interested in, if you're in sports for the long run, then you should definitely check out this program because it will give you the tools you need to stay there. So one important consideration when we talk about shoulder health is going to be the mobility of the joint. So we're going to look at the shoulder, which really that traditional shoulder joint that you might think of, your glenohumeral joint or that ball in the socket, is only a piece of the puzzle. We're also getting rotation at two other joints, our AC and our SC joints. So like our clavicle actually rotates as we raise our arm, and also our shoulder blade. So our shoulder blade sits on our rib cage, and actually as I reach my arm up overhead, about 60 degrees of that motion comes from the rotation of that shoulder blade. So we're gonna go through some functional screens. They're not exactly perfect, but they'll give us a relative idea of where you stand range of motion wise. So the first thing that I want you to try is just with one hand, I want you to reach back behind your head and try to touch about midway down through your shoulder blade. So I'm gonna reach and try to touch, and I can get about halfway down my shoulder blade. That's a good indicator there that, okay, my functional rotation is pretty good there. The other thing that we're gonna do now, we're gonna do the opposite. So we're externally rotating. Now we're gonna go into our internal rotation. I'm gonna reach back behind the other way. And again, I'm gonna try to see, can I get my fingers at least midway up my shoulder blade? And if I can, that's a good sign that my range of motion in that area is pretty good. And for the last quick screen, what we want to do is lay on the ground. Reason for that is that's going to keep our back in a neutral position. It's going to tell us if the range of motion is really coming from the shoulder. So I'm going to lay down on the ground here. We're going to make sure that our back is flat. We're going to take one arm, reach up overhead, leading with the thumb, keeping the arm close in line with the body. And we're trying to see if we can get that arm flat down to the floor. Common ways that you might find that you're cheating a little bit is if that elbow flares out to the side. I feel like I got there, but really that's not coming from the area we want it to. So if I come back and my elbow tends to go out and I'm hitting the ground, that's not going to count. Keep the arm in close. The other common deviation is going to be if the rib cage flares up. If I flare my rib cage up and I've got this gap here now underneath my back, my arm can hit the ground much easier. But then once I flatten that, my arm will tend to want to come up. So make sure that's flat, make sure the arm is in close to the body, and we're leading with the thumb. So if we can hit down to the floor, we pass that test, we have full overhead flexion. If we can't do that without any of those deviations, that means we have an impairment. So if you failed any of those 3 tests there, that means that you're lacking in your shoulder mobility. That's absolutely something that you've got to work on. So what we've done here is I broke down the program into 3 mobility sections. I'll put that on the schedule there, but essentially you want to make sure you're getting through mobility work at least 3 times a week. You're not going to overdo this stuff, so you could potentially do this daily if you want to speed up the process, but working through that at least 3 times a week, alternating through mobility A, mobility B, and mobility C would be a great place for you to get started. By being able to get that full range of motion, you'll be able to achieve a safe position during your lifts, during your throwing activities, during whatever your sport is. You'll be able to get into a safe position because we know you have that full available range of motion.